trade, very important here in Singapore, and Singapore knows very well. The ambassador spent a lot of time on a free trade agreement with the United States. Well, I ask you, what free trade agreements has the Obama administration originated? What negotiations have they began? None. The answer is zero. Previous administration, and I'm not here to defend the Bush administration, but the reality is Governor Romney will pursue free trade agreements, and there are many candidate countries that want to negotiate with the United States, but we currently have a president who is anti-trade. He is beholden to the United States union movement, which is against free trade agreements. And then one of the best examples of that, and to tie that into what I was saying about maintaining the credibility with our allies, is a free trade agreement that was negotiated with South Korea. It was almost signed, sealed, and delivered under the previous government of President Bush. And President Obama came in and said, I want to reopen this negotiation. Well, South Korea is a crucially important ally to the United States on both trade and security issues. And the United States lost a lot of credibility, and the agreement's implementation was delayed for several years. Those of you who are in chambers of commerce know how crucially important that agreement was for United States business, how many export-related jobs depended on that agreement, and President Obama's administration almost destroyed it. Now, since I brought up South Korea, let's stay in this region. President Obama has failed to establish strong personal relationships or follow up on initiatives that the previous Republican administration had with countries such as India and Indonesia. President Obama, who claims to be very knowledgeable about Indonesia because he lived there when he was a child, that makes him an expert somehow, canceled 2 trips to that country. Well, this is the world's largest Muslim country. Supposedly the United States has poor relations with Muslim countries. And within the first year and a half of his administration, he canceled 2 visits there. It was very damaging to the United States' credibility in the region. Again, with India, previous administration negotiated a nuclear supply deal with India. This is something that was very important to the United States companies that are involved in this industry. And again, President Obama has failed to follow up on this. Thank you. I'll just add, thank you. On China policy, again, President Obama has failed to establish the strong personal relationships that the previous administration had. That's crucially important to maintaining a productive relationship with China. We see a backwards movement on issues like human rights, on trade. This is why Governor Romney talks about currency manipulation. I'd just like to close by focusing a little bit on the 2 men as individuals. President Obama is a very intelligent man, very accomplished. He's a great speaker. He's a good author. He wrote a best-selling book. But he's a cold person. He has poor relationships, not just with Republican leaders. You can't blame everything on the Republicans in Congress, Jeff. Actually, he has very poor relations with his own Democrats in Congress. He hardly passed any legislation when the Democrats controlled both houses. So what does that tell you? When it came time to Obamacare, Speaker Pelosi and Senate Majority Harry Reid said, we'll write the bill, we'll let you know when it's done. And then they passed it with no Republican support because they didn't want to negotiate with the Republicans. It's not that the Republicans didn't want to negotiate with them. That's just President Obama's style. Governor Romney, on the other hand, this is somebody who has built businesses. He almost single-handedly built the private equity industry as we know it today. He is a man who's been responsible to investors and shareholders and stakeholders. He has provided opportunities for tens of thousands of people in the companies he created by creating jobs. He was the leader of the Olympics in Salt Lake City, working with representatives from all over the world to turn what had been a planning stage that was a mess with near bankruptcy into a profitable and successful event. He then became governor of a state, Massachusetts, led by Democrats, and he worked with a Democrat-led legislature in a bipartisan way as a very successful governor. So in closing, I hope when it gets time to the voting, you all consider supporting Governor Romney. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ross. Those of you who watched the second debate will remember that the moderator, Candy from CNN, sometimes acted as the fact checker. I won't do it this evening, so I would allow the two speakers to say whatever they want and challenge each other. In the next segment, I'm going to call on our three experts to each put two questions to Jeff and to Ross. I'll begin with Kristin Paulson on the economy. Kristin, could you ask the first question?
Thank you. Is this on?
It's on.
Okay. Thank you very much. My first question, I think I'm going to go in reverse order of what I had planned to. I'm going to start out with a much more simple, direct question to let our candidates sort of warm up. For each of you, please, gentlemen, name 3 specific of your policies in detail that will create new private sector jobs.
Okay, who wants to go first?
I'll be happy to go first.
Okay, Ross, you go first.
Okay,
Name 3 specific policies that will create jobs.
Certainly, I'd refer again to the 5-point plan that Governor Romney has proposed. He will cut taxes on businesses, lower tax rates. Historic data shows that lower corporate tax rates does spur investment by companies. Companies are more willing to hire. This will absolutely lead to job creation. Energy independence, lowering the cost of energy. The cost of moving goods has increased dramatically. The cost of employees coming to work. The extraordinary cost of filling up one's car with gas is a huge drag on the economy. By lowering that cost, it will, again, spur job growth. And also, just cutting the deficit and the confidence that will inspire, that will get the markets investing. We see such low volumes in the stock markets in the United States as well as other markets around the world. Investors are just on the sidelines. Companies are hoarding cash. No one really knows what to do. They're scared. They're uncertain about so many issues because this Obama administration is just unclear. They're adrift when it comes to economic policy. And the confidence that lowering the deficit and cutting spending and these other policies that I've mentioned will cause businesses to invest and hire.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you. I think, just for the record, creating jobs after I first started my first term and was losing 800,000 jobs a month after we passed the stimulus, which was, by the way, of that $800 billion, 1/3 of that were tax cuts to small businesses and to individuals with the payroll tax. This was a Republican idea. 1/3 of the stimulus was primarily from the Republicans. Guess how many voted for that? Almost 0. So in terms of a specific policy, I think that's one that stabilized the economy at a time of great peril, a great depression, essentially, right? Stabilized the economy. Energy, right? We are increasing energy production in North America and will continue to do so, but we have to keep investing in renewable energy technologies. We've got to keep that up. That does create jobs. More importantly, it creates sustainable jobs and jobs for the future. I don't want more people making horse carriages. I don't want more people making giant gas-guzzling SUVs, which is why, for example, a specific policy that I have passed is increasing fuel efficiency for cars. Again, let's have America be a technology leader in this area. Guess who opposed this in Congress as an attack on the free market, an attack on Americans' choice of cars? The Republican Party opposed these policies. So, I have created jobs, continue to do so, energy policy. 3rd, investing in education. Higher education, primary education, both of them. I support teachers. I want more teachers. I think that it's a lot of talk from the other side. Everyone supports education, but where's the policies?
Okay, thank you. Kristin, your second question.
Thank you. My second question has to do with the federal budget deficit and bipartisan cooperation, which both candidates mention, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of it out there. There was a bipartisan plan that was the product of a commission chaired by former Senator Alan Simpson and former House Chief of Staff Erskine Bowles, making recommendations on discretionary spending, tax reform, healthcare savings, Social Security, and other mandatory programs. They say their plan would reduce the deficit by $4 trillion over the next decade. Why can't either of you support that approach? And how will you expect to achieve real compromise without putting everything on the table to solve the problem?
Okay, so this is a two-part question. For those of you who have been following this very important issue, there was a bipartisan commission co-chaired by Simpson, a Republican, and Bowles, a Democrat. So the two-part question is, why can't the both of you support the report of the commission? And second, how can we achieve a compromise unless you're willing to put everything on the table? So maybe I ask Jeff to go first this time. Is that okay, Ross? Yeah. So Jeff, you want to go first? You support, so the answer to the first part of the question should be a clear yes or no. Do you support the Simpson-Bowles Commission's report?
Professor Koh, Ross and I almost had a bipartisan agreement on the taxi ride on the way over here, but then the taxi got lost. And no, but seriously, it was a very, the Bowles-Simpson report was very credible and highly respected. And for a variety of reasons, it was never picked up in the black and white form that it was written in. Having said that,